Good morning. Hope you all are doing well this morning. So today we're going to do a general overview. I have a lot of garden maintenance to do. So I'm basically going to spend today doing garden maintenance. Probably at least 4 or 5 hours today is my guess. So I'm going to bring you along for the ride. I might do only part of the day out here with you guys and then finish up this evening. So we'll see how far we get this morning on this vlog. But generally what I want to be doing is prepping a couple beds, getting rid of some stuff that isn't growing so well, replacing that with things that I have in the greenhouse, adding compost, etc. I'm kind of prepping for a new compost pile pretty soon as well, so got lots to do, lots to clean, lots to get to, so let's get started. By the way, I think I once again forgot to introduce myself. I'm Nick. I'm with the Untitled Permaculture Vlogs. I'm based here in Puerto Rico, and we do focus on kind of tropical permaculture, but general permaculture information and knowledge as well. So if you do like what I'm doing, please subscribe. That really helps me get some reach and have a little bit of motivation to keep going if I do see people like what I'm doing and subscribing and everything. So consider that if you like what I'm doing. The rooster's trying to show off. I did actually get a note from one of you guys, I think it was Neens, I think. I did this exact same thing yesterday. I really need to learn what your username is. But I will note to try to make my camera turns a little more smooth so it doesn't get you guys dizzy. I hear you. So I'll work on that. But yeah, Rooster was just showing off, trying to show me that he's in charge. I just dumped all this rice from yesterday from we had a rice thing, and a lot of it got kind of burnt at the bottom. You know rice at the bottom of the pot, you can't always get all of it out unless you really scrape for a long time. So instead of that, we just kind of let it soak for a minute, and then I bring all that out to the chickens, and they love it. Not apparent by the amount that's there, but they do eat it. So because I gave them that rice there, and because I'm low on food, I'm actually not going to give them extra feed today. They still have quite a bit of feed in here. Enough to last for, the rest of the morning at least. And since I'm going to be out here, I'm going to be feeding them. I'm going to let them out to their little pasture, so they're going to be just fine without a little extra food. So, not going to worry about that. They want to actually go out already, and I'm actually going to let them do that because I want to kind of start with getting some compost. So, I don't want them to be in here. Lots of garden maintenance. It really adds up, especially in the tropics here with all the abundant growth. Like, the maintenance part adds up really quick if you don't stay on top of it. And while I do stay fairly on top of it, you know what happens. You get lazy, or you're tired, or you have a migraine like I did the other day, and things just fall to the back burner. All right, guys, wanna come out? Yeah. How you, bud? Is that a little show from you? You scared of me today? Oh yeah, doing your little rooster dance. See, he pecks at me like that, but he doesn't peck hard. He's just kind of saying, hey, let me get past you. I want to go with my mama. So I respect that. He's trying to keep her safe. It's all good. It's all good, chicken. But, so the first thing I'm going to do today is, you can see here, this is where when my compost piles are finished, or really the end stage of my compost piles ends up down at the bottom of this chicken system. So up there, all the deep bedding I put up at the top where we just were. The rice is like right where my finger's pointing right now. And I build my first pile just up the hill from this little wooden plank thing here. And then as it matures a little bit, I bring it down to here. And then this, I kind of turn it back and forth in this little area. I'll kind of keep moving it back and forth underneath this tarp here, which helps keep it, gives me control of the moisture basically. So I still have the chickens do most of the work for me, but when it gets to these end stages here, you can see they've scratched a lot of stuff downhill from up there, from that bedding. So I want to move a lot of that back uphill so that I can be using that for the next compost pile. And I also want to harvest, you can see down here, maybe, that all right down in here, this is all really mixed in with a bunch of wood and everything. This is all really nice, high quality at least topsoil. It is compost. I know it's compost because I made it, but at this point it's been maturing for so long that it's probably more like topsoil than compost. It's not going to be like super active of the microbiology like a compost pile would, so it's not going to be as inoculating as it could be if it was actually pure compost. But it was compost, and it still is compost. So it's just going to have probably less numbers than it would have if it had just finished the compost pile. But by letting it go here and stay here and be in this little place for so long, I'm actually allowing the fungal networks to really grow and kind of spread out there. So I'm getting much more fungal growth in this little pile here. So I expect to have more fungi within this kind of compost topsoil-ish kind of thing that I can be adding to my garden soil. And that's what I like. I want a lot of fungi because they really are responsible for long-term stability in your soil. And also, most people have a lot of bacteria within their gardens, but not as many fungi. And fungi are just as important with all but with maybe the exception of your like kale crops. Other than that, pretty much all the other crops, they're going to want some more fungi. The weeds don't like the fungal soil so much. So if you have a decent amount of fungal biomass within your soil, you may have less weeds. So keep that in mind. So yeah, first up, I'm going to take a rake and basically pull all this uphill, all the big bulky stuff that I can uphill, and I'm going to harvest the compost from right here. Actually, before I start that, I want to water all the little seedlings that I have that are going to be transplanted out later today. I want to water them a little bit, make sure they have plenty of moisture while they prepare for being transplanted. Lots of melon here, and I got some more zucchini. Just try to see if I can keep going with those. So I'm going to give these guys a nice deep water. Now we're going to start with the compost. Alright, so I'm in here. I just basically raked all the big bulky material uphill and moved it all uphill, and a lot of it I threw up personally actually. Just a bunch of bulky stuff that I want to be able to throw into my next compost pile. These, the coconut husks, I probably won't throw in whole like that. As I build the pile, when I get to that point, I'll probably rip all this part off of it and just throw this stuff into the pile. And then these husks can maybe just be the actual like shell here. Will probably not be put into the compost pile, but it might be. It doesn't really hurt to put it in. It just won't really break down during the compost cycle. But it can provide nice little airspace and little pockets of areas for some microorganisms to hide. So I won't necessarily mind if I put it in there. And down here we have nice compost turned topsoil. These guys are now very interested in it. I've taken out all that top layer, and now we're at that nice easy bottom layer for them to scratch through. So they're pretty interested in what's going on here. And so, oh look, Otto showed up too. Here's Otto, our garden cat. He's usually my co-star, but he's been wanting to hunt all morning. Oh, there he goes, to more hunting. But yeah, so this area right here, all this stuff here, this has been composted already. And there are some parts probably that have not really been fully composted yet. But you can see they're really interested in it, and whenever the chickens are really interested, I tend to know that it's going to be pretty life rich, because that's what they're looking for. They're looking for all little microbiota within the soil, all the bugs and insects and such. So that's kind of, let's get you in the shade here. That's kind of the end material. You can see there's a little bit of kind of root network growth from something that's started to sprout in here. I don't really mind that too much, especially here in the tropics. And you can also notice that this stuff isn't fully broken down. You can still see some woody bits in here. So this could be composted longer for sure. I'll actually use a lot of this in the beginning of the next compost as kind of a starting material. I use basically old compost that either didn't quite make it all the way through its cycle or didn't heat up enough. I often use that as a good starting material for my next compost pile, because it will basically act as like kind of like that woody component, or like that long-term stuff that needs to break down still, but it has begun to break down, so it has kind of that a lot of that humic acid content, especially if you got a little bit of fungal growth. and that's just going to provide nice fungal food for my next compost pile. So a lot of this will be used for that still. And what I could do now is essentially sift through it, sift through what remains here, and then use that on my garden. So I have a nice kind of uniform layer. But again, because I'm in the tropics here, guys, so here things break down so quickly that I don't really mind if I have some stuff that's not fully broken down within my compost or within whatever additives I'm using, because that's just going to add food for the soil food web. And once it actually is in the soil and starts to break down all that, it'll break down really quickly. So I don't really mind too much if it's not completely finished, because that's what I can deal with here on my tropical homestead. So yeah, next step, I'm basically gonna grab a couple buckets and kind of get this ready to move. I'm gonna fill up maybe 3 or 4 or 5 gallon buckets full, just so I have it ready to go. And then we'll start cleaning for bed transplant prep and all that. Lots of work today, so might be a longer video. I see Otto's down here. Otto's down hiding in this little jungly patch. What you hunting for, bud? What you hunting for? What you finding down there? He's like literally completely obstructed. If you're just as far back, you probably wouldn't even see him. Yeah, look at that. He's in there. Can you spot the cat? Oh, I kind of see him. Down here, I harvested 4 20-gallon buckets, or 4 or 5-gallon buckets, 20 gallons total, of what was left here. Right now, the chickens are just realizing that I've done a lot of work in here. And you can see the rooster, or at least a second ago, the rooster was scratching like crazy, trying to find things for his mama there. It's very sweet. The rooster's very sweet. He wants to make sure his mama's happy. Otto also is now interested in joining the party. Otto wants to get through the fence here. He's putting his paw underneath it. All right, guys, next step is bed cleaning. A couple places I actually want to be transplanting, so we'll start on that next. All right, guys, it's been a couple hours since I was last filming. I had to recharge the battery, and I just was doing a lot of like little nitpicky things. It wasn't worth me talking about the whole time. So what I'm gonna do now is just basically walk you through what I just did, and then we're gonna tackle a couple other little projects. So sun's a little bit harsher, so if it's a little bright, just know that it's about midday. So, and I hope you enjoy my really fancy outfit here. This is the garden we were just working on. So earlier today, it had a bunch of tomatoes, old vines. One of them had died back, and one of them was pretty much dying, end of the ropes, you know. So I removed those 2 things, took down the trellis. All right, so what I did basically was add that compost that we harvested earlier, lay it down on the bed, and just essentially spread it out nice and even. I wanted to really raise up the soil quite a bit here because I have been producing in this bed for a while, so I probably added more than I necessarily had to, but I don't mind that because I'm building up the bed. After that, I did a little bit of aerating. I just used the garden fork to just kind of loosen things up a little bit, give a little bit of airspace down there. And once that was all set, I kind of respread that compost a little bit and then started planting. So we planted some melons, some calendula, and some orange bell pepper throughout this little garden bed area. And once we got it all planted, then I came back and added this nice layer of mulch. So I started here with papaya leaves first, and then on top of the papaya leaves I added just a bunch of grass mulch that I harvested from down below on our pasture here. Once I had all the mulch down, I just kind of gave it a really deep watering, so everything got a nice drink of water. And then right after I did all of that and everything was watered, then I actually rigged up this little palm leaf. I cut another one down, this palm frond, to just give me a little bit of that high shade right over where I just planted. So I don't know if you can see the line there on the kind of shadow line, but it kind of curves around kind of like this up the bed. So, and that's essentially right where I planted today. So I'm just giving it a little bit of extra protection from that midday sun because it is hot today. It's not the best day to be transplanting, honestly, but I have a day where I can work back here. So I'm taking care of a lot of these projects that I haven't gotten to. But I just basically stuck here the garden fork in the ground, right in the bed there. Just shoved it down, and I just ran the palm frond through the handle there, and it's just resting. So I can take that down once the sun kind of lets up a little bit today. So it's just a really temporary shade structure for those new transplants. Won't be here long, and the palm frond can serve other uses afterwards. That's why I love palm fronds. They're very, very useful. So yeah, that bed now looks from up here, it's kind of hidden away. You can't really see it. It's protected versus over here, where these guys, which are a little bit more established, still have that full sun. And then right down below here, I planted some Calendula, which is a medicinal herb flower. And they also, they actually like a little bit more of the heat, so I think they're going to do pretty well next to this big rock, this big thermal mass. So as the sun hits this throughout the day, it heats the rock up, so it's going to kind of heat this soil up and dry it a little faster. And I think that the Calendula will like that because they kind of like more of a Mediterranean climate. So, but I also gave them a nice high shade just in the form of this older, I think this is a Eureka palm leaf. And it's just casting a little bit of that dappled shade right on top of them, just to, again, take a little bit of that heat stress off for the day, since they were just planted. All the papaya leaves here, we're just pruning from around. I just kind of cleaned up the papaya trees throughout the gardens, and then especially the one up here. This guy was just, all of his leaves were kind of dying back because it was too much shade where it was. So got a really big harvest of papaya leaves here. So these also go on a garden bed. But that's kind of what I do, is I'll just come and harvest a bunch of stuff, and I'll just put them in little piles, and throughout as I work throughout the day and I need them, I'll come and grab them. So I just kind of do one step, then the next step, then the next step. So okay, I need mulch now, so I go and cut everything, and then after I'm done cutting everything, I put the compost on, get everything ready, plant, and then I have the mulch ready already, so I can just kind of keep flowing. So it's kind of like, you just kind of have to plan that out, and you can do that over multiple days too. You can collect all the mulch one day, and then the next day you can kind of prep the bed for planting, and then the next day you can plant and then mulch on top, or you can basically prep the whole garden bed, then mulch, and then plant into the mulch. It's a little bit easier. I like to plant first so I can kind of see the spacing a little bit better, and then I just kind of tuck it all in like a little blanket. But if you're trying to go faster, I would just mulch the whole garden, and then you can actually open up the deep mulch, put a little bit of compost in that little hole you made, and then you can put your seeds in there or transplant right into there, and then that gives it a nice little bit of a raised feeling, and the whole soil below it's nice and protected. That's only about half the day. I have probably another half day of work. I don't know if I'm going to get all of it done today because I'm getting kind of tired. You gotta really pay attention to that, especially in the tropics, because it gets really, really hot. You know, you can really get into heat stroke or heat stress if you don't at least take it easy a little bit. You know, take a little bit of a break. These garden beds need a little bit of water, so it's kind of a bad time to water them. I might wait till a little bit later to water, but I might water now just so they have a little bit. Just make sure I'm hitting the ground and not the plants, so they don't get a bunch of water spots and then get that damage on them if the sun burns them. So I'll just have to be really careful when I'm watering. Make sure I hit just kind of the soil and the mulch area. But yeah, everything looks like it could use a little bit of water, so I think I am going to water. And the next thing I wanted to do was take down this banana clump here. It's now pretty much ready. So I wanted to cut that down. It's starting to yellow up here, you can see. It's really kind of starting to yellow in this little area here, so it's time. And this thing's probably about 50 pounds. I don't know, it's like 22 kilos, I think, if you don't use the silly imperial system like we Americans, or we United Statesers, I should say. My plan is to take that down too, so maybe I'll do that real quick so you guys can see that. And then what I'll end up doing is using the banana trunk here. The whole trunk, I'll split this up into smaller pieces. I'll cut it down here, and I'll split this whole thing into smaller pieces and use that as a really bulky mulch to go on top of both the areas that I just planted and then the other garden beds that might need a little bit extra oomph because of all the heat that we're supposed to have this week. Just always trying to protect the soil and keep it moist and keep it protected. That's what I'm always looking for. The plants, obviously you want the plants to be thriving, but if the soil's doing well, then the plants will probably be doing all right, at least. All right guys, so first I basically just cut a little bit into the trunk of the banana on the top. So if it's leaning this way, I cut it up here at the top there. And then that's just going to give me a little bit of play so I can actually pull it down a little bit to give me a little bit better leverage on harvesting here. All right, so I'm basically supporting the tree trunk here. It's supporting itself over here. And at this point, I'm just going to let this fall. I'm usually not this involved with this part of this trunk, but it's right over my garden bed, so I got to be a little more involved here. So I'm going to just gently guide this one down, and now I'll make a cleaner cut over here. Again, because it's right over my garden bed, I'm being a little bit more hands-on here. So now I'm holding it, supporting it while I finish this chop. And once I have it chopped, I'm just gonna move it over. What I'm gonna do is I just want a nice clean cut here. And you can also make kind of like a V shape, with it, and that'll kind of let all the sap collect there and then harden off, and that'll prevent it from rotting a little too quickly and causing damage to the whole tree itself. Being careful not to go into the baby on this side. There we go. That's a clean cut. I actually might just let that happen because that's going to just drip down. Nothing should really pool on it. It should just run right off anything there. And this right here, this big stem, all these pieces become beautiful, bulky mulch. All right, so next up, I'm going to harvest the leaves themselves. And if you have a sharp tool, all this is really easy, guys. You just get a file, sharpen it up. If you have a really dull tool, it'll be much harder to do this. And it's also more dangerous to the plant. It promotes more infection. If it's not a sharp tool and it gives a really rough cut, it's not great for your plant. You can actually apparently make some sort of medicinal something or other out of the banana leaf or the banana tree flower. So I'm gonna keep this and maybe we'll do something with it. If not, it'll just go into the chickens in the compost. But look at this rack right here. It's beauty. She's a beauty. Let's see. Thing is probably easily 50 pounds, 45 to 60 pounds, I'd say, somewhere in there. It's huge. Whew. Yeah, it's getting hot. I'm gonna be done soon. There's our banana trunk, and all this, each one of these layers, these guys are so moist. A lot of people don't like that word, moist, but there you go. I'll say it again, moist. And they're just really nice bulk mulch. You put this right on the garden, right around all your little new seedlings and everything. It's going to protect that soil, keep it really moist there. I think I've already said moist like 5 times, so good on me. All right, for real now, I'm gonna need to make sure I give these guys a little bit of water. A couple things are looking pretty stressed, so I want to just give them a little boost. And then after that, I think I'll cut up this banana and maybe leave that till this afternoon. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna leave that till this afternoon or tomorrow. We'll cut up that banana and use it as the mulch because it's just gonna it's too hot. Gotta stop, gotta take care of myself, people care, self-care. So, yep, gonna stop because I'm feeling hot and I should probably eat some more food. But that's kind of what we did so far today. This whole project right here. So, kind of a complete garden bed overhaul. Adding compost, aerating, adding the transplants I wanted to get in today, and I do want to seed still. I want to seed right along the edge with cilantro or something like that. It goes right along the edge, nice and easy, so we can come and harvest it really easily. I think it'll be a good spot for it right along the inside edge there. So yeah, this is the project we did for most of the morning. Thank you to the chickens for your chicken compost services. Thank you, bud. And to you, mama. Enjoying their fresh food scraps there. I don't know where the other mama is. She's probably either laying an egg or in the dust bath, since they're allowed out into the dust bath. And then after that, we just took down this very big banana tree. So now this garden is much more exposed, but I think it's a pretty good thing, because the lower plants down here started to be reaching for light, started kind of coming out towards the camera here. So they were starting to reach. So I think giving them a little more. They still have that high shade with the papayas, but it's much less high shade because I pruned them back. So it's going to give them a little bit, and those papayas will grow very quickly anyway. So we'll get even more shade really quick. And that will help hopefully protect my little arugula babies. So the only thing I'm kind of worried about is I took down these guys' major source of high shade. But you can see right now we're in probably one of the hottest times of day. And they're still in some dappled shade and pretty much shaded right now. So I think they're going to be just fine. I suppose we'll see. And if I need to do some sort of temporary covering, I can do that. No big deal. All right, guys, that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed that kind of backyard maintenance, major garden maintenance, and some major cleanup and garden bed work today. If you do like what I'm doing, please subscribe, like the channel, subscribe to the channel, share it with communities that might find some value in this. That'd really help me just kind of get the word out there, get a little bit more reach, and I'd really appreciate that. So yeah, hope you all have a good one, and till next time, see ya.